Hello, welcome back to Waste Your Time Wisely podcast. If you're new here, my name is Tay. I'm here with my co-host Ryan.
That's me.
So today we're going to talk about something important called General Election Official Voter Information Guide. We do lean couple ways politically. I'm fairly moderate. Ryan, what would you say you are?
I'm fairly left progressive is where I'd put myself.
And then we're gonna read just straight off the official voter information guide. So, and then we'll talk about our opinions afterwards. So I noticed that a lot of people get these books and then they just throw it right back in the recycle center. But not only is this book very informative, that's how you vote.
I mean,
Should be how
it's
you read.
the first place that you should look to understand anything that you're voting on.
Yeah, because I remember in 2012 election, I asked people in the street, what's Prop 8? They're like, I don't know what the fuck Prop 8 is. Or it's like, what's Prop 1A? They're like, I don't know. And then I remember that one of them had like the high speed train and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty clear cut on it without any biases, and it kind of shows you like who's like for it and against it. So we're gonna go through the propositions today, and we'll read the yes and the, like what voting yes means to you and what voting no means. And this is based off California. So if you are out of state, please read your general election voter guide.
But you should still
And
like and subscribe.
that too. And please argue and write your wonderful comments and call me racist.
Or tell me
Thank
what
you.
state. Maybe we'll read your propositions. Tay loves to read.
Oh, we're just gonna do. I'm back in the library. Oh, I have a gym membership now. I'm done with my calf recovery.
Nice. Very good. Are we going to be kicking field goals anytime soon?
I don't know. I'm sick of planning things with you for now. There's still a very solid date that I asked for since April that hasn't 100%. So I just bought tickets to go somewhere that weekend. So the weekend after, if you're good to go, sure, I would love to go.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that after propositions.
Well, starting off
I'm not
here.
petty. I'm not angry or anything.
Up at the top of the propositions, the first one we'll start with is Proposition 2. Authorizes bonds for public school and community college facilities, a legislative statute.
Summary: authorized $10 billion in bond general obligation bonds for repair, upgrade, and construction of facilities K through 12 public schools, including charter schools, community colleges, and career technical education programs. I'm gonna read that again because I fucked it up. Bear with me here. I am not doing well with tech today. Summary: authorized $10 billion in general obligation bonds for repair, upgrade, construction, and facilities at K through 12 public schools, including charter schools, community colleges, career technical education programs, including for improvement of health and safety conditions and classroom upgrades, requires annual audits. Fiscal impact is increased state costs about $500 million annually for 35 years of repay the bond. Supporters are California Teachers Association, California School Nurses Organization, Community College League of California. Opponents are Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association.
So, what your vote means. A yes for this measure means the state could borrow $10 billion to build new or renovate existing public school and community college facilities. If you vote no on this measure, that means the state could not borrow $10 million to build new or renovate existing public school and community college facilities.
The arguments for it: many schools and community colleges are outdated and need basic health and safety repairs and upgrade prepare students for college and career to retain and attract quality teachers. Prop 2, which is this one, Prop 2 meets those needs and requires strict taxpayer accountability, so funds are spent as promised with local control.
An argument against voting for Prop 2. The con, Proposition 2 will increase our bond obligations by $10 billion, which will cost taxpayers an estimated $18 billion when repaid with interest. A bond works like a government credit card. Paying off that credit card requires the government to spend more of your tax dollars. Vote no on Prop 2. Yeah, I think they have more here. Yep, supporters. Here we go. Supporters for Prop 2 includes unions like the California Federation of Teachers, California Labor Federation. Wait, am I on Prop 2? Better make sure I'm on the right prop here. Yeah, California Proposition 2. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back down and see who's all about this. Supporters, like I said, I already went over the unions, organizations, Alameda County Office of Education, Association of California Administrators, California Builders Alliance, California Chamber of Commerce. Wow, there's a number here. California Retired Teachers Association, Community College League of California, League of Women Voters of California, Los Angeles Unified School District. Big list. Who's against this?
It's just a tax group, right?
It's there's two things stated here on Ballotpedia. It's State Senator Brian Jones and organization called Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association.
So Howard Jarvis, you'll hear them a little bit more on this one. And then if you got this far, I'll probably say this in the intro. If you got this far and this is boring you, it's supposed to. That's how people kind of keep you away from voting. And I'll say this and I'll say this again, which is if you're a property owner and you don't vote, you are a fucking idiot. If you're thinking about buying property and don't vote, you are also a fucking idiot. And if you don't want to vote, you have every right to not vote. But I feel like if you vote, you have a right to bitch about it because the other side got it wrong or other side got it right. If you don't vote, you don't really have a right to bitch about things.
Yeah, I'll agree with that last part. You should definitely be voting. And most voters are property owners, so we should be having people who aren't property owners voting too. Because if a majority of the voters are property owners, guess which way these votes are going to swing? They're going to favor the property owners. Whether that's good or bad, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying like that's kind of what happens.
That's an interesting math though, because you think there's more property owners in America than less. There should be less, right? Because people own multiple properties.
I'm not saying. Well, I'm not sure if I understood your question. I mean, once again, all I'm saying is that most voters are property owners.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I'm saying most people in America don't own property. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if you want to just see people who are eligible to vote, right? So not kids, not immigrants, not convicts or people with felonies, right? So anybody of adult age who can vote, are majority of them property owners, and if they are, that's a pretty interesting math because that means a lot of people who don't own property are not voting.
Yeah,
mathematically, there has to be less property owners than properties, right? That's because that's what's happening in America. You know what I'm saying? So let's say there's 100 million eligible voters. So you're saying majority of those are property owners. So you're saying, let's say 55 million of them, or like 55% of them, are property owners. That means 45% are the renters. That doesn't make any sense. Because does that make sense to you?
This is why I don't do math vocally. I was kind of following, but also kind of like also reading. So I'm sorry for not giving you my full attention.
It's okay. But anyway, so what do you think about Prop 2?
Dude, it's like, dude, I do want to give more money towards education. I kind of don't like the line about this also going to charter schools. I feel like this could be one of those measures where, hey, yeah, let's like funnel money for this thing that we're saying is good, but could also be utilized for, could be utilized for people who don't really need it most. If you're at a charter school, most likely it's because your family is in a demographic where you can pay for schooling and you're really not in a minority situation. So that one little thing, that one sliver kind of irks me, but outside of that, I'm for it just because I'd rather have the schools have more money to update their facilities. So we're using calmatters.org, Ballotpedia, and the
it's like the state office.
Is it the Secretary of State's office?
Yeah, Secretary of State. Voters Guide, Secretary of State of California Government. And a lot of people think it's biased, but I'm like, well, it depends on like whoever's on office is the same thing. So,
all right, so what did you want to see?
So same page on the left, it says analysis.
Ooh, analysis. All right, let's check this out.
If you go down, down. Just read that graph of figure.
All right, here we go. Figure 1, uses of proposed bond funds in the billions. Public school facilities, 8.5 billion here. Renovation of existing buildings, 4 billion. New construction, including buying land, 3.3 billion. Facilities for career technical education programs, 0.6. Not a lot. Charter schools also 0.6. Okay, so just this figure alone has answered that question that I brought up, which was, how
Yeah.
much of this is going to go to the charter schools? Because that's where I feel like if it's going there, it's really not providing a lot of help for schools that probably need it. I don't really believe charter schools probably need as much help as a lot of our public schools do. That's just me personally. And seeing this tells me, okay, cool. You don't get that much. I am even more for this proposition to pass then.
I'm always, and then if you scroll all the way down, so one of the things about fiscal effects of voting, so $500 million sounds like a lot of money for each year. So 500 million each year for 35 years to repay the bond. So that's a lot of money. But I always feel like, okay, if the money doesn't get used here, could they use it? Like, I mean, are they going to make bonds for some other things that I don't care about, like high speed train to Fresno?
You don't want a high speed train to Fresno?
Not really. It's not a hard drive. It's very unnecessary.
It's a start. It is a start.
I mean, it's a very late start, but I guess it's better late than never. But back to Prop 2. The unclear effect of local cost statewide, and then it's like who's governing it. They don't really talk about that, so that's the worrisome. So
Mhm.
this is one of those things. It might be uh, sounds really great on paper, but
In practice.
yeah, it might be very poor execution, which means like there won't be. The biggest issue is it's not a matter of like if the money gets used and people get smarter and schools actually get a residual from it, that's fine. But it's if it goes to the wrong people or it goes to the wrong hands or it gets misused. So
Which is, yeah, that's a real concern, man. I mean, if we look at the homelessness spending in California too, there's I can't recall the exact number of dollars that uh, was hard to track or not able to be tracked on what was spent on. But transparency is definitely an issue sometimes. So understanding, yeah, how is this going to be tracked and accountable
so
is it's a big question.
there's over $1 billion you spent on homelessness in California, and then each city has their own funding too. So let's say it's $1 billion. An average home in California costs 900,000. That's 1,000 homes with money remaining over. So if you could buy 1,000 homes and just
Every single
and
year.
which is what they're kind of doing now, right? They're taking over like old buildings. They're taking over like they built new buildings. They're taking over motels that don't do well in business, or they're doing well in business, but they make a deal with the city. So that's what's happening with LA. So if you drive around LA, I know you don't. A lot of the underpasses are being cleared out, and I think this is a long-term game to the 2026 World Cup plus 2028 Olympics. So city workers and city leaders, they do have a deadline, not just like do it till like whenever you fix it, right? And it's an ongoing thing. So since it's not a linear problem, like I'm broke, I'm homeless, I'm on the street. It's kind of like, okay, I'm broke, I can't get a job, I'm on drugs, I'm not mentally feeble or have mental issues, I'm on the street, and it's kind of like an ongoing question. So we're kind of digressing here, but do you want to vote too right here, or we just want to talk about the props?
I mean, we can state our opinions. It's already said. I'll be voting yes on this. I will.
Okay. And then one of the arguments in favor of Prop 2 was many public schools and community colleges are outdated and need repairs. And I could probably say that as a former student. And repairing and upgrading California public schools and then making schools safer, preparing schools for the 21st century careers, and increasing access to affordable and college education, helping returning veterans, restoring schools affected by natural disasters, protecting local control over every other project, which was our big worry.
Hmm.
Fiscally responsible with tough taxpayer accountability. So it's supposed to go to the California Teachers Associations, along with the Nurses Organization and Community College League of California. And then we won't go over the rebuttal because it's long, but the argument against Proposition 2 would be California's out of money, and Californians are overtaxed, and Prop 2 will increase the taxes. And Prop 2 saddles future generation with debt that our kids will be paying for decades. And my rebuttal for that only would be just the fact that they're kind of paying their own thing. So as long as a child is very happy about their education, I feel like they'll be okay paying for it. Let's say they kind of cruise through high school like most teenagers do, and then they have to pay this Prop 2 bill that when they're in their 30s and 40s. That kind of seems unfair too. Um, I'm a little bit mixed.
It is mixed. I
Uh,
mean, I think a lot of propositions are going to be that way for people. It's not always clear cut which way you want to go, and that's okay.
yeah. You want to do Prop 3?
All right, let's move on to Prop 3.
Yeah, and then we'll switch off. So I'll start it off. Um, California general election, November 5th. Official voter information guide. Proposition 3, constitutional right to marriage. Legislative constitutional amendment. Summary. Amendments California Constitution to recognize fundamental right to marry regardless of sex or race. Removes language in California Constitution stating that marriage is only between a man and a woman. The fiscal impact is none. No change in revenues or costs for state or local governments. Supporters for this are Sierra Pacific Synod. Am I reading that right? Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in California. That is a mouthful. Dolores Huerta Foundation. Equality California. The opponents are Jonathan Keller, California Family Council, and Reverend Tanner DiBella.
What your vote means. So, a yes on Proposition 3 means that the language in California Constitution would be updated to match who currently can marry. There would be no change in who can marry. A vote of no on this measure means language in the California Constitution would not be changed. There would be no change in who can marry.
An argument for Proposition 3 protects Californians' freedom to marry regardless of their race and gender. Proposition 3 removes discriminatory languages from the California Constitution stating marriage is only between man and a woman. Proposition 3 reinforces California's commitment to civil rights and protect personal freedom. Vote yes. And then the website is yesonprop3california.com.
The con for Proposition 3 is Proposition 3 removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy. It changes California's constitution even though same-sex marriage is already legal. By making moms and dads optional, it puts children at risk. This careless measure harms families and society. Vote no on Proposition 3.
Okay, so let's talk about it. I think this is kind of interesting, but just because, I mean, one big boop is there's no money on this, right?
Yeah.
It's literally just wording and social impact. This is the most social, like directly social impact as you can get. There's no bonds, there's no stocks, there's no
It's just rhetoric,
tariff.
right? Like is that a way to say it? This is just about rhetoric.
So
Like,
let's kind of dig into what's gonna change if the words get edited. I searched up Jonathan Keller, president and CEO of California Family Council. Um, his mission, his mission is advancing God's design for life, family, and liberty through California's churches, capital, and culture. Um, I'm a big separate church and state person.
I'm with you. I definitely agree
Like
with this.
I would love. I mean, I'm probably gonna get shot and sniped by some con man, but I don't get sniped for saying this. But I want to start a political party called Separation of Church and State
I think you'd get
because
a good number of people who'd be supportive of this.
yeah, and then without going on a tangent, I hate the hypocrisy of like, okay, so you want to write things are based off God and Bible when it benefits your argument, but when Jesus wants to help everybody, they're like, nah, well, not immigrants,
No,
well, not
not them.
gays,
Not them.
not them, not the prostitutes. No, 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 no. And then someone dare question them, like, didn't Jesus hang out with everybody? They're like, no, 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 no. He was confused. Like he was high off carpentry.
Yeah, the con argument that they use here that this is going to open up the door for child marriages, incest, and polygamy is just to me that just reads like a slippery slope fallacy. Like you're kidding. No one is thinking about doing this. Like that is not a real thing. This isn't happening. This is a fear
Even
tactic.
I isn't there a age limit? Like, I'm not into marriages. You're the one into marriages between you and me, right? So I'm not into the legality of marriages in California, but
I don't know
isn't
if
there
California
a
has a minimum age actually.
there's no minimum age for marriage?
I don't know. I saw just a graphic, and I didn't check the source to see if it was real or not. But it didn't when it says like minimum age for marriage. I think California was like NA, like data not available. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Does that mean we don't have an official stated minimum age?
Okay, so according to well, I'm getting two different things. California law requires a person 18 years of age. Oh, they need a consent for one parent or guardian. So if it is the parent, I guess that's a big problem. And then in
Yeah.
UNICEF, according to UNICEF USA, there is no there's a campaign called Fight to End Child Marriages in California. There is no minimum age at all. You just need a consent from a parent or a guardian.
Oh, so that graphic
Like
was correct
yeah,
that
so
I
I
saw.
guess if you are the parent or the guardian trying to marry your child, I guess that might be a problem. But this does on paper, like on face of it, it seems pretty anti-LGBTQ and fairly discriminatory. But I mean, I guess it's kind of like what's gonna be the vacuum after effect of this proposition, right? Like who's gonna take advantage of it? I guess it's not like everybody's happy. It's whoever is looking for the things that they're arguing about, which seems unlikely, but I don't know. People do crazy things. People do, and then I don't know how changing that word changes things of like polygamy. So let's say you change the word, like you're taking out, man and a woman. Um, to me, I'm glad someone's fighting for equality for people, but it seems like a flawed prop that they just wanted to put up there. It's like, what does this change? Gay people get married in California now.
I think I see what you mean. Like, there's higher priorities for us to vote on and to discuss and really put to the ballot than this. Is that what you're kind of getting at?
Yeah, and then obviously, California or just America and even local governments have a lot of issues, just even with like what's happening in Florida right like today, like right now.
Which
That's not only a
I do want to say, like, it's not that this isn't important. I think it is important that we have language that is inclusive, absolutely. But um, yeah, there are other
yeah, but
issues
what
that.
what I don't understand is I have friends who are gay who got married in California,
Mhm.
multiple. I've been to those weddings. Like I was in someone else's wedding this weekend. But do you know any same-sex couples who are legally married?
I was just trying to think about that. Like, do I know anyone who's legally? I
Sounds
didn't ask,
discriminatory,
but
Ryan.
I'm
Sounds
assuming that they're married.
okay. So
Yeah.
I I don't know how much this changes things that's already in play, and then obviously it's already on the ballot. Um, oh, I forgot to talk about who put it on the ballot. Was it signatures or
Let's see. Let's go to Cal Matters here for
this
proposition.
Prop 3 was put on the ballot by the legislator. So it's by the state. That's interesting.
No reported contributions to oppose this.
Which
Interesting.
is also very interesting, right?
Yeah, no one wants to put their name to it to oppose.
I
Well, except for
kind
Jonathan
of want to.
Keller.
I kind of want to reach out to these people and be like, all right, tell me your best. Tell me your best. Like, why no? Why yes?
So, all right. I don't
Is
know.
he?
Is there much more to chop
Is
up
he?
on this?
Yeah, I mean no, but I mean like the argument sounds like something that we're like that sounds kind of a little loony, and then if it does happen in masses, we're like oh man, Prop 3 really failed
Dude,
us, right?
that's
But
not gonna happen. I'm ready. Okay, we're moving on. This one is
moving on,
we're moving on.
moving,
I think
moving
they
on to
know how
Prop 4.
listeners know how we feel about that one.
Cool. Moving on to Prop 4. Take it away, Ryan.
California general election, Proposition 4 authorizes bonds for safe drinking water, wildfire prevention, and protecting communities and natural lands from climate risk. A legislative statute. Summary. Authorizes $10 billion in general obligation bonds for water, wildfire prevention, and protection of communities and lands. Requires annual audits. Fiscal impact. Increased state costs of about $400 million annually for 40 years to repay the bond. Supporters: Clean Water Action, Cal Fire Firefighters, National Wildlife Federation, the Nature Conservancy. Opponents: Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association.
What your vote means: a yes on Prop 4, state would borrow 10 billion to fund various activities aimed to conserving natural resources as well as responding to causes and effects of climate change. A no on Prop 4 means the state could not borrow 10 billion to fund various activities aimed at conserving natural resources as well as responding to the causes and effects of climate change.
Pro, a yes on 4 for safe drinking water, wildfire prevention, clean air, and protection of natural resources. California firefighters, conservation groups, clean water advocates urge yes. Accountable, fiscally responsible, with independent audits, strict transparency. Proactive approach saves money and prevents the worst impacts of devastating wildfires, smoke, droughts, and pollution.
Argument against this proposition: bonds are the most expensive way to fund government spending. Water and wildlife mitigation are necessary, not luxuries. They should be budgeted for, not bonded. Mismanagement led to this crisis. This $10 million bond will cost taxpayer almost $2 to repay for every dollar spent. Vote no on Prop 4. All right, Ryan. Thoughts?
Yeah, interesting. The statement that bonds are the most expensive way to fund government spending. This is actually probably one of the first times ever was contested with saying that. I'm not too familiar with whether or not. I mean, I guess so, right? You're going to be paying interest on it. It's going to be more expensive than if you were to budget for it early.
One thing I noticed was they usually, when they don't have a sound argument against the proposition, not the arguments, pros and cons of it, because a lot of these sound really good on paper, and this sounds so present and so in the sound of a need. It almost sounds like an emergency fund.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have faced like drastic wildfires.
Yeah.
We have shortages on firefighters. We have shortages on water. Like everybody who's alive now kind of have gone through many iteration of that. But that's when like a state argument of like bond, because they didn't say that argument about Prop 2. That's a bond. Obviously, it said you will be paying back for a while, but didn't say something like it's the worst way to raise money. And then, yes, they do have an argument that this is a need and it should be budgeted for rather than like, oh, let's just raise more money to things that we're not really managing correctly. But I don't know. It part of me thinks it's like let's raise more money to things that we're not really good at now. And yeah, it could help. And other part of me kind of thinks like I hate seeing forests burn down. And I'm not talking about arsonists, obviously that's a whole different thing, but I hate seeing, like wildfires take over what? Months at a time, firefighters getting injured, freeways being closed.
Yeah, it sucks.
Homes being burned. Yeah. And then obviously, as you know, I have friends who work in the water department, and so I might be a little bit more pro water conservation than others. I don't know. This is kind of interesting. So it's like 400 million for 40 years for like resources, or 500 million dollars for what was it, 30 years for kids, right? It's like, if I vote yes on one, do I need to vote no on the other? Like, do I need to pick one because I don't want to pay double taxes? So that's kind of interesting too. Yeah, and then we would love to hear. We have a comment section on Spotify, so we would love to hear what you think. Please tell us what you think.
I'm kind of curious, like when they say, well, what are they going to do? I understand that yes, you want to make safe drinking water, you want to do wildfire prevention, clean air policies. I suppose I'm a little more curious to the actual implementation of what they're thinking of doing with this money. I'm sure it'll be good use, or at least I hope it is. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking about right now.
We'll find out, right?
Let's look at the analysis, see if it says anything here about it. Okay, paying for water and energy infrastructure. Okay, improving local drinking water systems. I'm for that. That sounds good. Let's budget for this next time.
We'll save this for next time, right? And right, okay. Would you like to move on to prop number 5?
All right, let's do it.
Right. California general election, official voter information guide, Proposition 5, allow local bonds for affordable housing and public infrastructure with 55% of voter approval. Legislative constitutional amendment.
Summary.
Allow local.
Oh, I'm sorry. I stepped all over you.
Take it.
Want to do the summary?
Go ahead.
All right, the summary. allows approval of local infrastructure and housing bonds for low and middle income Californians with 55% vote. Accountability requirements. Fiscal impact, increased local borrowing to fund affordable housing, supportive housing, and public infrastructure. The amount would depend on decisions by local governments and voters. Borrowing would be repaid with higher property taxes. Supporters, California Professional Firefighters, League of Women Voters of California, Habitat for Humanity California. Opponents, California Taxpayers Association, California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, Women Veterans Alliance.
What your vote means: a yes on Prop 5. It means certain local bonds and related property taxes could be approved with a 55% of vote in local electorate rather than the current 2/3 approval, which is 66%. Those bonds would have to fund affordable housing, supportive housing, or public infrastructure. No on Prop 5 means certain local bonds and related property taxes would continue to need approval by 2/3 votes of local electorate.
Arguments for Prop 5 say that Proposition 5 shifts local spending priorities away from state government, giving local voters and taxpayers the choice and the tools to address the challenges facing their communities. Whether it's housing affordability, safer streets, more fire stations, or other community-driven projects, Proposition 5 empowers local voters to solve local problems. Vote yes.
Against Prop 5, con is Prop 5 changes the Constitution to make it easier to increase bond debt, leading to higher property taxes. Prop 5 shifts financial burden from state to local communities, increasing costs for homeowners, renters, and consumers. Politicians wrote loopholes in Prop 5, so infrastructure can mean just about anything.
Initial thoughts.
I feel like my generation has been embedded on affordable housing, right? That's like a term you could get anybody kind of riled up or opinionated about,
Mm-hmm.
especially in California. Anytime you put, hey, this will happen and it will be more affordable, I think it's very tempting, very enlightening in a way. But I don't know, housing's expensive, but you're going to raise taxes on properties that's already not affordable. So it's already hard to buy a house and you're going to raise taxes on it. So I don't know, that's a little harder on people who already own houses, people who are trying to own houses.
I agree. I don't really think this helps resolve the issue of affordable housing. And like you said, they use the words here, let's make things more affordable, and it sounds nice. But I think this is one of those policies where it's really not addressing the issue here. It's not.
I think a big thing is I think it's an issue of it's a 55% over 2/3 vote. That's the big thing.
Yes.
Right? So if you read into it, it's kind of so the 2/3 thing's already there. So if a local government said, "Hey, we're going to raise taxes," and 70% said yes, it's going to approve. So right
Mhm.
now they're looking for like a very little majority. I'm sure every bill and every proposition have some things written in there that doesn't favor everybody and it favors certain people. That's why you have authors for these propositions, but that they work on for years. But yeah, so it's a little skewed. I'm not sure how you're going to propose, hey, things are already expensive. We're going to make things a little cheaper, but you'll pay more in taxes.
If we're talking about taxes, raising property taxes and giving, making it, I guess, easier to vote for bonds is not the way I'd go. I would go for, well, now we're talking federal. I'd go for raising the income taxes of those making like over $500,000 a year or something. If that's what we want to do. But
whatever. People who make over 20 million.
No, we can start there. I'm happy starting there. We can do that.
Yeah. I had this crazy thought about a little bit side tangent. Why don't those people who have like over $100 billion in money, like Mark Zuckerberg's and Jeff Bezos, right?
Yeah.
Why can't they just pay off 10 people's debt each year? So at least we have some they do nice things.
So essentially a lottery from the billionaires.
Yeah, and then they don't get to pick. Like there's like a voting system. It's a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put your name in, and then you say like, I would like my mortgage paid off is this much. And then there's like a cap, right? Or I would like my student loans paid off. It's this much. Or I would like my car paid off is this much. So there's like different tiers of the money. So there's, like tier one is like how like mortgages, and it's not the whole mortgage, but maybe 5 years, because that's a lot of money.
It is.
Maybe a year mortgage, and then maybe the second one's like student loans, and then maybe the one's like a medical bill, because a lot of people get screwed over for medical bill, because obviously a lot of their fortunes are in stocks, right? They own like millions of shares of their stocks, right?
Yep.
But you think Mark Zuckerberg selling 1,000 Facebook stocks is gonna either one, ruin the market, or B, make him poor, or three, his kids can't go to private school? Probably not. And yeah, those stocks are not that price forever. It could tank, but and then this is just kind of like like I'm shooting the shit, and it's a notion of like just kind of help the little guy out, right? And it doesn't have to be a socialist program. So like everybody enters. Um, it's drawn by the nonprofit, so the nonprofit gets paid like portion of those money, and they operate, right? And then nobody's really sad, because it's like
I mean,
when somebody loses the Powerball,
I would
right?
prefer that money was just spread out for everybody. I mean, yeah. Because right now your idea is like it helps like 10 people, right?
Can you say that one more time? Can you say that one more time?
I
I
would
hope that was spread out.
prefer for a more systemic resolution that would help
May I
all
ask-
of us.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
One question for that. How?
Start by taxing the super fucking rich more.
No, because it doesn't fucking matter, because all their money's not really, it's not cash, right?
You start there. Don't make paying them in stock. Don't incentivize paying them in stock without
if you own
taxes.
If you own FinMutFin company, you own FinMutFin LLC, and then somehow it got to this almost $1 trillion company, and then when we started it, you had, I don't know, you had 40%, I had 40%, or you had 50, I had 50, and then we went public, so you had 40, I had 40. We still have a shit ton of stocks, right? So unless you buy me out or you buy out the other 20, right? Like we still have controlling votes. So
Yeah.
if we own that and our stocks go up, not just based on what we're doing, that's based on what the market's doing. How are you going to tax me on it if I just own the stock? I don't have cash for it.
Yeah, get rid of the incentives to be paying these executives in stock. That wasn't always the case.
That's going to tank the market.
Fuck it. Maybe we need to tank the market.
You don't mean that. You own stocks. You don't mean that.
I do own stocks. I do.
It's a weird thing about Wall Street.
I would let my stocks tank. I would let them tank if there was if that meant a huge shift in the way which executives were paid. If that meant there was no more stock buybacks, that meant there were no more huge ass stock bonuses for executives, and that they had to be paid an income again, and a majority through income. Tank the stocks. Do it, because in the long run, that's going to work out way better for us than having what we're currently doing.
There's a talk right now that all these, the extreme billionaires, without getting into too much I'll edit this out. I'll put it in the end. There's extreme tangents that we are going through, but there's this talk about these extreme billionaires who are like, they need to kind of feed back into the middle class, because that's the majority still, upper middle, lower middle. And if those people are unemployed or go off hinges, and then it's a weird cyclical, not even just capitalism, like just how the market works. If people don't buy things, so for example, people are so broke they can't afford things on Amazon, even if it's Prime Day. Yeah, you could be in debt, but eventually people are going to stop, right? Like they can't, it's not a sustainable level if people aren't making enough to like live. They can't shop, and if they can't shop, these shops are going to close down. And no matter, obviously Amazon's probably not hurting as much as like, the local mom and pop shop, obviously. But with that being said, like it's like this weird macro economy, but within like trickles of microness like embedded into it. And it's not the simple supply and demand anymore, right? Because it's like global, there's stuff, there's things that I don't like physically hold in my hand. It's not a tangible item anymore. So it's not about making, here's a cup, buy the cup. It cost me $2 to make it, and I sold it for $10, right? Yeah, there's a lot of that, but it's more of like, okay, I need subscribers. Again, without going into too much tangent, I never understood the streaming wars. It's like, how are you gonna make that work? What are you gonna do when people don't subscribe? What are you gonna do when people start sharing passwords?
It was a matter of time before one, they started to cut the sharing down and also introduce ads. Like that's just where it was gonna go. They could not,
Yeah,
you could
but
not
even with them,
sustain
it's
what they're
like,
doing 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
and then it was a dumb idea anyway because it's like, who's gonna watch all that shit? Was it? Let me ask you this because I always ask this about this.
Hmm.
What platforms do you use to like watch shows mostly? Amazon?
I have Amazon, HBO
No, but what do
Max,
you use the most? What do you use the most? What's
probably
number one?
HBO and Disney Plus,
So Max, right?
and
So
YouTube.
because I was not kind of part of it, but when Max first went on air during COVID, it was a fucking
Oh, I
it
don't
was a
recall. I
fucking
remember it went
mess.
through like
Yeah,
3 name changes or something.
yeah, it was a fucking, and then not just a name change, it was a fucking mess. But with that being said, they're making all these content. So there's shows on Max that you obviously haven't seen,
Yeah,
and you probably don't even know it's on. But I'm glad people are employed and they're making content, but they're making content, not really selling a product. It's not. At least Disney has a huge consumer base, right? And I'm not talking just about content. I'm talking about merchandises. Like the parks have never done bad. People still go to parks, no matter how expensive they are. People still buy Mickey ears. People still buy Minnie ears. People still buy Disney T-shirts, and they could license the shit out of it. Yeah, Max, you own DC. You own, I don't know, White Lotus, but are people buying White Lotus's sweaters? You made one great TV show. You made a second great TV show. You make people come back, but people are gonna come back because they want to come back, not because you have an award-winning show. I mean, it helps. Just make good shows, right? But you're sad. It's saturated. But I mean, that's a little TV tangent.
it is saturated. We're gonna go back to having cable TV again, being what everyone wants.
Just you're gonna cut the cord and you're just gonna have cable TV.
Yeah, everyone's gonna want one service that gives you different channels and just pay one bill. Dude, I think I'm voting no on this one. Even for someone who considers himself pretty progressive, I don't know if I think this is the right move.
It's the right move to somebody.
It's the right
Ready to
move
move on to
somebody.
props. Ready to move on to Prop 6?
California general election official voter information guide. Proposition 6 eliminates constitutional provision allowing involuntary servitude for incarcerated persons. Legislative constitutional amendment. Summary: amends the California Constitution to remove current provision that allows jails and prisons to impose involuntary servitude to punish crime. For example, forcing incarcerated persons to work. Fiscal impact: potential increase or decrease in state and local costs, depending on how work for people in state prison and county jail changes. Any effect likely would not exceed the tens of millions of dollars annually. Supporters: Assembly Member Lori Wilson. Opponents: none submitted.
What your vote means. A yes on Prop 6 means involuntary servitude will not be allowed as punishment for crime. State prisons will not be allowed to discipline people in prison who refuse to work. A no on Prop 6 means involuntary servitude would continue to be allowed as punishment for the crime.
Arguments. Pro argument for Proposition 6 states it ends slavery in California and upholds human rights and dignity for everyone. It replaces carceral involuntary servitude with voluntary work programs, has bipartisan support, and aligns with national efforts to reform the 13th Amendment. It will prioritize rehabilitation, lower recidivism, and improve public safety, resulting in taxpayer savings.
Con of Prop 6 is no argument against Proposition 6 was submitted. And recidivism is a tendency of a convicted criminal to reoffend.
Thank you for expanding on that word.
That was a word, I think it was on like something and I got it wrong. I thought it meant you receive things. Like you're capable of receiving things. But anyway, moving on. This is I mean I have so many things against just not prison per se, just how prisons are ran in general. I know prisons were so bad when I mean, it was a long time ago when I graduated high school, but when I was graduating high school, my government teacher who was retiring said, if you're going to commit a crime, commit a federal crime. Federal prisons are much better than state prisons in California.
Oh, man. What
I said,
what
thank
advice?
you. What an advice. So I will probably go kill a federal judge, not a local judge. Just, or rob a bank. That's a federal crime. I'm not telling you to rob a bank. I'm just telling you robbing a bank is a federal crime.
Interesting, though. There was no arguments against this proposition. I mean, I think I'm going to be voting for it. I'm about no slavery. Let's do this. Even
Is
if you're
there
an
no
inmate.
one? Is there nobody else?
Let's see. Opponents, Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Associate. Of course, you're there. Howard Jarvis. California Republican Party. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's not interesting. That's on par.
What's the impact?
The impact, let's see. What would it do? That's not going to be impact.
Fiscal effects, potential increase or decrease. So might go up, might go down. Potential increase or decrease in state and local criminal justice costs. The fiscal effect of Prop 6 on state and local criminal justice system and uncertain. So this is kind of a lottery thing, huh? It's like we don't know. We'll know. We'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah,
Uh,
right. Because it
it would
depends
depend on
on,
how Prop 6.
as it say, it depends on how they're using the workers. I mean, yeah, it's going to increase costs if you're using workers to, say, clean your facility, and now you need to pay for people to actually clean the facility, which we should be doing anyways, I think. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous just to use your prisoners as slaves. That seems a little archaic.
Once upon a time, I worked for a military agency called the U.S. Army. I fucked that word up. I meant to say it. I work for a government agency called the U.S. Army, and our uniform, physical training, so our t-shirts and shorts and jackets that we run in, those were made in a prison. I forgot which one. Now, I don't even know if it's a military prison, but I know those were kind of manufactured in prison. A lot of prisoners do their own maintenance and services. They do manufacturing and assemblies. Like I believe California license plates are made in prison.
I've heard that.
Yeah. And then they do some agriculture and conservation. You and I graduated from high school with a common high school friend. I don't know if you were friends with him, but rest in peace. He passed away, but he was a volunteer firefighter for the California prison system. And then they do educational vocational training. So I don't know. So I know not all prisoners are just rotting away in jail, and they do some kind of education. I think it's just very hard for them to transition back. It's hard for them to find gainful employment. I do love that, right? Hey, we're short on firefighters. Hey, what about these prisoners that you trained for 2.5 years who fought 6 wildfires? Nah.
Yeah, isn't that wild? Like, dude, those guys should be
Nah.
front of the line. They have the experience. They need a job.
They're only front of the line when it's super dangerous and they need more people.
Yeah, and
Then they're front of the line.
and when you're not
chopping
paying
lumber.
them.
And I think they get paid it's like a little over $1. I think that's what he got. Because I bought him a SIM card and I sent it to prison.
Let's see. Roughly 1/3 of people in prison work. Many of these workers are paid less than $1 per hour. Yeah, that is
There it is.
that
There
is
it is.
ridiculous.
There it is.
We
There
can't
it
have that.
is.
We can't be doing this.
Yeah, so it's almost so involuntary servitude is almost like slavery, right? So yeah, the argument used to be because not even Prop 6, the argument used to be, well, like they committed a crime, so they're paying for their crime by giving back service. But I don't know, I volunteer. I'm not doing that out of money. I get fed, but I volunteer. I'm not doing that out of it's not I'm not voluntold to do it, right?
Yeah, and I
Not
think
punishment.
that old or whoever holds on to that belief, well, they did the crime, and now that's what happens. I think it's a weak argument. I don't care. That's a weak argument. Just because.
Very 19. It's
Yeah.
a 20th century argument, right? First half.
All right.
It's
Okay.
interesting. We're moving on to the double digit numbers, so we're moving to Proposition 30, including my favorite number 33. But with that being said, these are all it is put on the ballot by petition signature. So if you ever had somebody say, "Could you sign this?" and I need 200 signatures, there it is. And then with that being said, we will say it every time we do prop. So I'm just reading that off for our wonderful Spotify listeners. So if you got this far, please consider following. And then this episode is sponsored by Birds Detail. You know the deal. You heard us before. Go to birdsdetail.com if you're in the LA area, and hopefully you are if you're listening to this, because I'm talking about your voting, not Iowa's voting, which I will be in Iowa, like a stand-up comedian from November 7th to November 11th. With that being said, I don't know why I said those dates. I don't want people to know I'm there. I'll be in Iowa. With that being said, yeah, let's move on to Prop 32. Proposition 32, California Voter Information Guide. Prop 32 raises minimum wage. It is put on the ballot by petition signatures. Raises minimum wage as follows. For employers with 26 or more employees to $17 immediately, $18 on January 1st, 2025. For employers with 25 or fewer employees, $17 on January 1st, 2025, $18 on January 1st, 2026. The fiscal impact will be state and local government costs could increase or decrease by up to hundreds of millions of dollars annually. State and local revenues likely decrease by no more than a few $1,000s annually. Supporters of these are none submitted. Opponents are California Chamber of Commerce, California Restaurant Association, and California Grocers Association. Those are all labor unions except for the Chamber of Commerce.
What your vote means. A yes vote on this measure means the state minimum wage would be $18 per hour in 2026. After that, it would go up each year based on how fast prices are going up. A no on this measure means the state minimum wage likely would be about $17 per hour in 2026. After that, it would go up each year based on how fast prices are going up.
Arguments for Prop 32. Yes on Prop 32 raises the minimum wage to $18 so more service, essential, and other workers and single moms can afford the state's cost of living. Corporate profit margins increase 100% since 2000 because corporations spike the prices of goods. Yes on Prop 32 so workers can afford life's basic needs.
Cons for Prop 32 say it was written by one multimillionaire alone, and he wrote a horribly flawed measure. Proposition 32 increases the cost of living, eliminates jobs, makes our state and local government budget deficits worse, and makes California's complex minimum wage laws even harder for businesses and workers to understand. No on 32.
Thoughts?
I'm about workers getting paid more money. It's just, I am a little confused here. So we're looking to just raise it by $1. That's it?
But it did say it's going to go up each year, right?
It said that for both a vote on yes and a vote on no, that after 2026, it would go up each year based on how fast prices are going up. So it makes it sound like regardless if you vote yes or no, that the minimum wage is increasing with inflation. That's the way I'm reading it, but I don't think that's what it is.
This is the only thing I care about when they raise wages for anything, not just Prop 32, which is, let's say Ryan Dorman, senator from Fresno, and you're like, let's raise it to 20. Sounds good on paper, but you need to make a second proposition called Prop 32B. You can't raise prices on goods for 3 years.
Yeah, or like make it tied to inflation, so that way the buying power can stay there. We raise minimum wage, and then all of a sudden within 2 years, it's subpar as minimum wage for people. I lost Tay. I don't know what happened. He froze. Let's keep reading about this, though. Let's see if I get any understanding of what's going on here.
Where, yeah, it sounds great. Raise minimum wage. Everybody gets a fair wage. But that means, what was it? People with 26 employees or more, which is probably not a big company.
No, that could be small. Oh, okay. I'm finding some answers here. So starting in 2027, the wage would be adjusted based on inflation as the state already does.
Yeah, but that's already happening.
So, okay. So the minimum wage is going to raise with inflation, regardless if you vote yes or no on this. So that's already implemented. That's already something that's happening.
Yeah.
Okay. So far I like that. All right. Let's see.
I always say, why don't you just rate, just minimize, just give us $100 a month, government. That's it. Let us do whatever we want to with $100. Keep the taxes the same. Just write us a check for $100 a month. That's it. Everybody. Not enough. And I'm sure, what's the population of California? 55 million? 30 million?
You went 55? I don't know. Is it 55 million? That sounds like a lot.
55? It's 39, right? So let's say take out the millionaires, right? They don't get it. If you make over $1 million in any given year, you don't get the $100. But let's say 39 times. Yeah, why not? Why not?
It's much easier, though, I think, administrative-wise, if you just give it to everybody. Then you don't have to worry about the extra administrative task to remove somebody. You just give 100 to everybody. It doesn't make that much of a difference.
No, I don't. No, Gavin Newsom should not get his 100, or he should publicly donate that $100.
He should definitely donate it.
When he gets a check, he donates it. We see it. It's like we call it the Governor $100 day. When he gets it, he goes to there's a TV. There's someone his intern following him, and he gives it to a nonprofit of his choice. I'm giving it to the Boys and Girls Club of Sacramento, and we go, yay!
I'm about that. Let's see. Why is this on the ballot? Let's see. California, first state to reach $15 minimum wage in 2022.
That just
And
happened. Like, let's let's
yeah.
let's let's stick with it for a while, you know?
And then it's saying that according to MIT Living Wage Calculator, even in the cheapest California county, Modoc, a single adult with no children will need to make at least 20.32 an hour to comfortably afford the basics. The statewide average, 27.32. So this doesn't even provide you a minimum living wage, which that's kind of a different debate whether or not that's what the minimum wage should be, a living minimum wage.
15-second trivia question. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Stick out your hand and make a map of California best as you can. Where is Modoc?
I don't know. I was going to
Well,
ask
take a
you. I
guess.
don't know where Modoc
Take a guess.
is.
Take a guess. Where do you think?
Like,
It's the lowest cost of living place. So where is it?
I was thinking it's somewhere like
It's not us, right? It's not you.
no.
It's not me. So where is it?
It sounds like northern central California.
So around
That's what
what
I'm
city?
thinking of.
Like pick a most closest.
Like
city.
somewhere around Sacramento.
Okay,
But even
so like very like valley and by the
yeah.
mountains, kind of. It's by the Oregon, Nevada, California border. That's Modoc County.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was a book about the Modoc, but it's like, but I think it's like population 8,000, a lot of nothing. So
Interesting. Wealthy startup investor turned anti-poverty advocate Joe Sandberg first pushed an $18 minimum wage 3 years ago and poured $10 million into signature gathering effort to qualify the measure for the 2022 ballot. Damn. Man, dude, really rich people just
that sounds like a attack on character, though, doesn't it? Like
It
how
kinda
they
does.
describe him. How they describe him. They could have said anything they wanted to, but they're like, you know what he is? He used to be a startup investor turned anti-poverty advocate. Because
this is a PR move. Like, what is going on here? Huh.
yeah, so right now the idea has over 60% support, but
Let's
that's
see.
stated by him, not.
This is a pretty left versus right topic here. You got the California Democratic Party who's for this, and then you have the California Republican Party against it. Yeah, it looks like business associations, California Restaurant Association, California Grocer Association, California Chamber of Commerce,
But
also
are
against
they?
this.
But are they taking our jobs?
They took our jobs.
They taking our jobs. I do love the media endorsement. First line on the right.
The media
Do you-
endorsement.
do you
Oh,
see
media
it?
endorsements.
Do you know where we
Pasadena.
used to live?
Pasadena Star News for against.
I'm gonna have to call my Pasadena Star News contacts. Be like, "What's the deal here?" They're like, "I don't know. Fuck it. Just
You know, there will be some fallout if you raise the minimum wage, but I feel like do it.
you know."
I'm for it.
Here's an interesting thought. Don't get too morbid. When do you think you'll die? Bear with me here. Play with me.
80s,
80s. Okay, so let's say you died at 85, right?
sure.
So you have a couple decades to go. So right now propositions are, when there's like who's backing the propositions or politicians, you see like LA Times, San Francisco Chronicles, New York Times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's gonna happen when newspapers go out of business? It's like it's sponsored by Amazon. It's sponsored by Max. Sponsored by Disney Plus.
The Daily Wire,
Oh, that's
Timcast.
Your favorite newspaper, right?
Yeah, Daily Wire, Timcast, love it all.
What are you gonna do when the DW is voting? It's supporting a left. Like how in history, like Democrats go left, they go right. Republicans go left, they go right. Within like half a decade or half a century. So what are you gonna do when DW kind of evolves into a neoliberal newspaper?
I don't know. I don't even know who you're talking about. Oh,
How long were you subscribed to Daily Wire, Ryan?
you stop that. I've been there since day one, baby.
How long have you been watching Brett Cooper?
You know, that's a name I don't know. I don't know that name.
Brett Cooper's the girl who kind of looks like Ben Shapiro.
Oh yeah, that's kind of weird. That's a little
yeah.
strange.
Like she's pretty and attractive in her own way, but like ever since someone said that, like I can't unsee it. It's the eyebrows.
Yeah.
I think it's
No,
eyes.
absolutely. She is attractive in her own way, but it's undeniable that there is a resemblance between her and Ben Shapiro.
If someone's like, hey, they're cousins or they're like siblings, I'd be like, oh yeah, no, yeah, of course. Why? Of course.
I wonder if it was a active thought when they hired her. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe Ben's followers will also listen to her because she kind of resembles him. So in that aspect, it's like it's bringing their guard down, so they're more willing to listen to a woman.
I read on the internet, so it must be true
It's got to be.
on my favorite website, Reddit, because you know I
Hmm.
love Reddit.
Yeah, a lot of us.
Did my pupils pop right now when I said that lie? But anyway, someone said she's just it just created her in a lab, a female version of Ben Shapiro. So, um,
They
moving
nailed it.
on. Yeah, I nailed it. They're pretty good. Moving
Really
on.
good.
I think Ben Shapiro is the only person that I know objectively speaks faster than I do, and I speak pretty
Oh
fast.
yeah, that dude
Yeah.
speaks real fast.
I was listening to him once on like Bill Maher or something, and then I thought my thing was on fast forward. So
Nah,
he's like the only person I have to listen to on like 0.75 speed. Everybody
just
else I listen at 1.5 speed. I listen to him at like 0.75 speed.
dude's just anxious because all of his thoughts suck, so he's trying to move on to the next one.
I mean, but there's a lot of thoughts coming out of that wonderful Jewish brain of his. But all right, moving on. My favorite number. So California Proposition 33 expands local government authority to enact rent control on residential property. Initiative statute put on the ballot by petition signatures. Repeals Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act of 1995, which currently prohibits local ordinance limiting initial resident rental rates for new tenants or rent increases for existing tenants in certain residential properties. The fiscal impact will be reduction in local property tax revenue of at least $10 million. I read that wrong. Fiscal impact reduction in local property tax revenues of at least tens of millions of dollars annually due to likely expansion of rent control in some communities. Supporters are California Nurse Association, California Alliance for Retired Americans, Mental Health Advocacy, Coalition for Economic Survival, Tenants Together. Opponents are California Council for Affordable Housing, Women Veteran Alliance, California Chamber of Commerce.
What your vote means. A yes on Proposition 33 means state law would not limit the kinds of rent control laws cities and counties could have. A no on Proposition 33 means state law would continue to limit the kinds of rent control laws cities and counties could have.
Argument for Prop 33 pros are the rent is too damn high. And I'm not saying that. That is written on the general information book. Rent is too damn high. 1 million people have left California. Rent control in America has worked to keep people in their homes since 1919. California's 17 million renters need relief. Homeowners and taxpayers benefit from stable communities. California dream is dying. You can help to save it.
Cons. Don't be fooled by the latest corporate landlord anti-housing scheme. California voters have rejected this radical proposal twice before because it would freeze the construction of new housing and could effectively reverse dozens of new state housing laws. Vote no on 33 to protect new affordable housing and California homeowners.
I mean, I have lots of thoughts, but thoughts that go off me just initially. As you know, I'm very fond of 33. I may or may not be a Freemason, but it's just been my number for a while. I have no idea what Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act is. I also know, I don't know about your neighborhood, but around LA, like Santa Monica, some places are rent controlled. So they can't jack up that rent to $5,600 for a studio. So I know there are some benefits of rent control. I think repealing an act that's already in place. One of the things that's coming to my mind is like, how would I know if it's locally governed? There's a lot of little cities and areas and little embankments in California. How do I know what they have? Like, would that be pretty well written, or am I going to get screwed out because I'm moving from, let's say, Glendale to Burbank, and then Burbank has their own rules, and then they're like, "Oh no, we don't do that here." And I'm like, "I'm just
I think that's
moving."
possible. I
Yeah,
think
I'm
that,
only
I mean,
moving
to me,
3
that
miles,
seems
right?
local. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, Glendale is its own jurisdiction compared to Burbank, compared to Pasadena. I think it's completely possible that the three of those could have different rent control policies, if at all, right? Because this is giving the local governments the
Yeah.
power to impose these rent controls if they want to.
And then one of the things I love is the way the arguments are written. Can we go over the written narrative?
Yeah,
The
I think the pro is the best start. Pro argument for Prop 33 starts with the rent is too damn high.
One more time, Ryan.
The rent is too damn high.
Can you read the first sentence of the con, please?
Don't be fooled by the latest corporate landlord anti-housing scheme.
That sounds like something I would say to somebody when they're like, "Hey, they're doing this buy one get one free." Don't be fooled by that latest corporate landlord anti-housing scheme. Woo,
I
this
mean,
is fun. I mean, I'm
straightforward,
biased, so
bro.
I in my mind, my Neanderthal mind, I'm like, it has to pass because it's 33. But, like, it could say Proposition 33, we're gonna kill all Korean Americans. I'm like, well, what's the argument? Let's hear it out. I mean, it's 33, right? You know my idea, right? Like my favoritism, McMuffins, other McMuffins,
Uh-huh.
color blue, number 33, and food. And then other biased things like, being a veteran, being Korean, being an Angelino, stuff. Dodger fan, the good Dodger fans. I, so things like that. That's the order. That's the TU hierarchy, usually. This is kind of interesting. Your thoughts on this?
This is not, once again, we're not battling the actual, what I would say, cause of what's causing rents to be really high. This is a
Which is?
symptom.
Which is?
To me, I think partial causes of why rent is driving so high. One has to do with wealth disparity. I think that's a big problem. I think that's a huge problem. And I think that bleeds into housing affordability. And we're not doing anything about that really. Like that's, I think there are local initiatives you can do to try and combat that, but I think that's also something that you have to do federally too. So I don't know what I'd expect from a California initiative. I'm not sure if I would expect one to try and bring that disparity back into a better equilibrium.
One wonderful argument I always have is I've been here more or less for almost 3 decades now because I'm an old human.
Uh-huh.
And with that being said, like since COVID, they said 1 million people have left California. I'm like, well, people must got 2 cars on the freeways then, right? Because it doesn't seem less crowded.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. So 1 million people left, but I'm in traffic longer than ever. I guess all the fast drivers left. I guess they're like, hey, this is fucking Ready Player One. This is fucking Fast and the Furious. And they all drove to Arizona, Texas, Florida. And I guess all the slow people, they're like, oh, I want to keep my Prius here. They're all still here. I guess, because they're like 1 million people left, still stuck on the 405. Oh, and longer. Like, what's your argument? Like, more people are driving now? Like, anyway, so yeah, I mean, with all the 33 biasy and all the jokes aside, this is, I don't know, this is one of those, like introduced idea on paper sounds very nice, very tempting, but I think one of the arguments it says Prop 33 is a Trojan horse that overturns state affordable housing laws. So maybe because a lot of the pros argument in favor of proposition is based off how great California is. I'm not talking about the state. So the argument in favor of Prop 33, if you go read the arguments in rebuttal,
Mm-hmm.
it talks the narrative of the California dream. California,
I
the
see
Golden
it.
State, was once the land of opportunity. However, things have changed. I
Yeah, I
feel
see a
like
paragraph here. We love California. It is a land of natural beauty. We are at the cutting edge of technological innovation and vast amounts of wealth. Yet, based on cost of living, we are the poorest state in America. We have way too many seniors, single parents, low wage workers, and veterans choosing between paying rent and putting food on the table.
this is to new voters and people who usually throw this away into their hopefully recycling bin. Without opening it. I love when, little side topic. You know when there's multiple voters in a house and they get multiple books because everybody gets a book?
Yeah.
They throw all of them away. That's a fun one. I should just make an episode about that book. But here's a voting thing just because we used to go hang out in the Capitol in Sacramento, which is if you see an argument for a proposition that doesn't talk about objective things and it talks about the beauty of something else, like children are great, children needs to live, that means that proposition is not that strong, generally. If you're seeing Proposition 33 and it starts about the California dream, it's very passionate and stuff, that means the objective argument's not there. So please keep that in mind. Is that always the case with every proposition? No. But usually when you read proposition, like the rail bond to go to fucking Fresno, they usually break it down, right? Like it's going to cost this much. This is going to impact that. This is going to impact this. People are for it. People are against it. But when someone's getting very narrative about we love California, it's land of natural and beauty, housing is a complex, that means they don't really have objective arguments. Just putting that out there. Not always, but
No,
thoughts?
it's good to keep that in mind. You're right. Like the writing for the argument for over here based on the state guide. Yeah, I agree with you. It's doesn't seem as objective as the writing over here about the arguments against. In but in the end, yeah, housing is a goddamn issue, and the rent is too damn high. Uh, I'm moving out of my current apartment, and to break the lease, I owe $6,000. But if I find someone to take over my unit, so if I can refer somebody who's
Does
going
it
to take my
come with
unit,
the wife too? Does it come with the wife and the dog too?
the breakage or the unit,
The unit.
well, we can make something work.
Yeah. Okay. Just asking.
So yeah, if I can find someone, then yeah, hey, they'll waive that fee. But when I asked about it, I was like, hey, like that's a lot of money for an individual. Like just $6,000 to break the lease? Are you kidding me? Like, yeah, this is typically meant for people who have jobs and moving cross country, and like their company's gonna pay for it. Like, dude, you would admit that to me on the phone? What is wrong with you? And what is wrong with this idea that, how many people who are individuals have been paying this stupid breakage fee, thousands of dollars to this corporate landlord that we have, that doesn't need this fucking cash? Like, this is outrageous to me. But I'm getting a little off topic here.
Okay. You should get a great lawyer or a shiesty lawyer or both.
Well, hey, I signed a contract, so it is what it is. And not like I had a choice. If I wanted to live here, I needed to sign the goddamn thing. I didn't really have a lot of say here. I have a lot of power. But anyways, back to this Proposition 33. It seems like a Band-Aid for a really large issue that isn't going to be resolved by just rent control. Now, do I think we still need the rent control? Yeah, but I kind of feel like I'll be voting yes for this. Not with hesitancy, but like I don't want to, but I feel like I'm forced to because we're in a situation where rent is just out of fucking control. And this won't solve it, but maybe it'll slow the bleeding a little bit. But we need other solutions here to actually bring rent and bring property prices down. This is not the solution, but this is what they're giving us.
One thing that caught my eye about 33, which was the people for it and people against it. It seemed very divided. There's like veterans on both sides. There's housing people on both sides. There's senior alliances kind of on both sides. But again, anytime I read a proposition and they're just like, hey, this is gonna take a lot of like the money that's gonna help this group is gonna be kind of just put on something else. And I'm happy to see there's no very prominent housing developer. Like I'm sorry, but let's say Rick Caruso or something in here, right? Even though he does corporate. But I don't know. There's the people who are for it and people who are against it. Like you see the groups, it's kind of pretty divided. So I thought that was kind of interesting too.
It is interesting.
Anything else on the 33?
Let's see. Arguments against here up on the screen from Cal Matters. Let's see. They argue property values will drop and developers will be less likely to build new housing.
Yes.
Honestly, I could see property values dropping a bit, but that's also kind of like what we need to make things more affordable. Like prices need to drop. But once you become a homeowner, now here's that issue where like you're in, baby. Do you want prices to drop now? No, you don't.
It's always that argument like, why now, why me, right? Like, why now, why me? I worked so hard to buy this property. It'll be different if I own multiple homes, and I've been owning homes for a while, or my family has, or my trust has, or whatever. And you just got to deal with what's coming and how do you avoid losing income. But you raise rental prices. But I think if you're a first-time homeowner, first-time property owner, but this is why we vote, people. This is why we vote.
This is why we vote.
This is why we're making this video for you. This is why we're making this video for you, so you don't have to read your stupid shit. So watch this stupid ass video on Instagram or WhatsApp. Oh, watch this stupid video on Instagram or TikTok. And I hate TikTok, but bear with me here. I'm doing this for you, please. So just watch a video, make your thought. Please vote. Oh, register to vote, even though you probably passed a date. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I think if anyone who's been listening, you can tell like some of these, it's not easy to vote one way or another. I don't know. I am torn on something like this too. I'm likely going to be voting for it, but
Yeah, and then whoever's listening to this, if you do have a good argument for any of this proposition that we shared, they're like, "Hey, Prop 4 needs to pass because of X, Y, and Z, and then Prop 6 cannot pass because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5."
Yeah,
Please
let
let
us
us
know.
know. I love receiving messages. I love receiving messages about my quality of my content, not the content, but and then I told you this, right? This is the
Hmm.
side tangent, which is I need people to follow and rate. I don't really give a
Oh
fuck if
yeah.
you listen. If you listen to it, it's great. But I get a lot of these passive comments when I like new episode out. Somebody would be like, "What do you talk about?" And it's fairly general, right? Like we don't talk about one topic. And then someone would be like, "Oh, I love the episode where you like bash on the VA."
Yeah,
My
give it to other
last dying
people.
words. My last dying words.
You know what's nice about this? We both said he wanted to do something very similar, going over the propositions with pod
Well,
dogs. So
guess what? Guess who beat him to it?
I got to read them all beforehand, so I kind of know him a little bit more now, which
Wait,
is
when did he
nice.
say that though?
He mentioned that probably like 2 weeks ago or something,
All right. Well, you should have acted on it, Matthew.
but he didn't act on it.
He didn't act on it. I called him a bad son. He's a bad son. He's a bad son.
Yes, own. All right.
Moving on to
Um,
Prop 34.
California General Election Official Voter Information Guide, Proposition 34, restricts spending of prescription drug revenues by certain healthcare providers. Initiative statute, put on the ballot by petition signatures. Summary, requires certain providers to spend 98% of revenues from federal discount prescription drug program on direct patient care. Authorizes statewide negotiation of Medi-Cal drug prices. Fiscal impact, increased state costs, likely in the millions of dollars annually, to enforce new rules on certain healthcare entities. Affected entities would pay fees to cover these costs. Supporters, ALS Association, California Chronic Care Coalition, Latino Heritage Los Angeles. Opponents, National Organization for Women, Consumer Watchdog, Coalition for Economic Survival, AIDS Healthcare Foundation, Dolores Huerta.
What your vote means? A yes on Prop 34 means certain healthcare entities would have to follow new rules about how they spend revenue they earn from a federal drug discount program. Breaking these rules would result in penalties such as not being able to operate as a healthcare entity, generally for a 10-year period. A no on Prop 34 means these new rules would not go into effect.
Arguments for Proposition 34 say Prop 34 will protect patients and ensure public healthcare dollars actually go to patients who need it. Proposition 34 will close a loophole that allows corporations to spend this money on things like buying stadium naming rights and multi-million-dollar CEO salaries. Protect patients now. Vote yes on Proposition 34.
Con for Prop 34 would be a revenge initiative. California Apartment Association, representing billionaire corporation landlord, doesn't care about patients. Their sole purpose is silencing AIDS Healthcare Foundation, sponsor of the Rent Control Initiative. 34 weaponizes the ballot, is a threat to democracy, and opened the door to attacks on any nonprofit. Thoughts?
If I'm understanding this correctly, this means that providers just have to spend more money on patients. Yeah, part of this is me just understanding the context of this, like and taking this in and really understanding like what does this mean. I feel like I need another moment. I might want to flip over to Cal Matters, see if just reading it differently might help me understand this proposition better. I've also had you're frozen. Taste frozen. So I'm going to talk on my own. In past voting cycles, when I've come across something where I was not familiar with it, like, say I don't understand Prop 34 at all. It's okay not to vote. You don't have to vote on everything. You don't have to put a yes, no on every single thing. If you don't know about it, maybe it's best you just abstain. Up to you, though. You do you. But let's see what Cal Matters says about Prop 34. What would it do? Since 92 federal laws have given healthcare providers a deal, serve low-income and at-risk patients, and get a discount on pharmaceuticals. Okay. Providers that make use of this program can turn around and sell those drugs at retail prices. Wait, what? Their profits can then be used to expand their healthcare services to disadvantaged groups. So if I serve a portion of low-income people and at-risk patients, I get to buy some pharmaceuticals on a discount. cool. If I buy in excess of that, it sounds like I can then just turn around and sell it at retail prices to people who aren't low income or at risk. And yeah, I see. Okay. And then pad my pockets with the larger profits. Okay. I see what you're saying there. Got it. Prop 34 would require some California providers to spend at least 98% of that net drug sale revenue on direct patient care. Ah, okay. So anything you sell off of those discounted drugs, got it. 98% of that sell, that revenue needs to go to patient care. Dang, okay. Providers that don't risk having their state license and tax exempt status revoked and losing out on government contracts. But the proposition doesn't apply to all providers, only those that spend at least $100 million on expenses other than direct care, that also own and operate apartment buildings and have racked up at least 500 severe health and safety violations. Dang, this is going for really large providers. This is not some small provider stuff. They seem to be going for some large entities here. As far as anyone could tell, that only applies to one organization, the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. Oh, the measure would also put into law a Newsom administration policy that requires all state agencies to negotiate for lower drug prices as a single entity. Yeah, that actually sounds like a good idea. Why would we want to negotiate prices as multiple entities? I feel like we would want lower prices. Just do it statewide. I feel like you have so much more leverage there if you do it as a state, as opposed to breaking us all up into tiny pieces. Why is this on the ballot? The short answer is that a lot of politicians and housing interest groups really don't like Michael Weinstein. Weinstein is the longtime president of the Los Angeles-based AIDS Healthcare Foundation, which operates HIV/AIDS clinics in 15 states. Under his leadership, the foundation has also become a major player in state and local housing politics. It has poured tens of millions of dollars into two unsuccessful statewide rent control measures. Prop 33 on this year's ballot is round 3. It has aggressively lobbied and campaigned against legislation requiring local governments to permit denser housing, at one point likening a bill authored by San Francisco State Senator Scott Wiener to Negro removal. In 2017, the foundation backed a partial moratorium on development in Los Angeles and sued to halt construction on residential high-rises. Along the way, the foundation has amassed a sizable portfolio of rental properties in LA's Skid Row that have been saddled with habitability and health complaints. My God, the Weinstein has plenty of political foes. A familiar one is funding this initiative. The California Apartment Association, the state's premier landlord lobby and major opponent of rent control. Yeah, I see. They want to weaken Weinstein's advantage with the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so reading about Prop 34 on Cal Matters gave me a different understanding of what was going on here. Tay is silent, just staring at me into the void. Anyways, I was having trouble understanding what is like really on the line with Proposition 34. So I went to Cal Matters to see if I can get a different perspective and might be able to help me understand this. And I feel like Cal Matters provides a clearer picture. Yeah, to me, as I say, Prop 34 sounds like it just really wants to cut the amount of influential power that the AIDS Healthcare Foundation can get by implementing a yes on this proposition. The amount of care and services that the AIDS Healthcare Foundation does, a lot of that revenue would go back to patients, and then instead of being kept as profit within the foundation. And the reason why, it seems like people really hate the president of the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. So like they're really targeting Weinstein, Michael Weinstein.
Who is
Who
is Susie Shannon?
Susie Shannon. Let's see. I don't see her name up on Cal Matters page.
She's the person against it. She's the information page if you have to reach out to be against the proposition.
So let's go to...
While I was Madonna frozen, one of the things I heard was, one of the things I read was like, healthcare and the senior advocacy group believed the measure would ensure public funds benefit those who care the most, and then the opponent. So this seems like a kind of a gang attack on AIDS Health Foundation leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So this seems a little petty, but
yeah. So like Cal Matters did state that, as far as anyone can tell, this only applies to one organization, the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. The measure would also put a law that the Newsom administration policy that requires all state agencies to negotiate for lower drug prices as a single entity.
I do love the fact that one organization needs a proposition to be targeted and
Yeah.
or whatever it may be.
But if this is true, what they're stating up here in the top,
Mhm.
this 92 federal law has given healthcare providers a deal, serve low income and at risk patients, and get a discount on pharmaceuticals. And then you can go ahead and turn around and sell those drugs at retail rates. Yeah, that's kind of fucked up. Nah, I'm not about that. I'd like to close that loophole out. If you're buying pharmaceuticals at a discount, well, those should only be used for the low income and at risk patients. But I mean, that's probably hard to track.
Yeah, who's gonna track it? Who's gonna control it?
Yeah, exactly why
Who's the
that's a
sheriff of the
terrible.
town? Is it gonna be
That's
Gavin Newsom, your future president?
why this is a terrible little law. I get the ideal, but enforcement is a whole nother issue with laws and regulations. If you can't enforce it, then writing it and passing it was almost pointless. Yeah. So, anyways, instead of them being able to profit the pockets, it sounds like, yeah, those revenues would have to go back into patient care. I don't hate that. This sounds great.
So are you for or are you against?
I think I'm for this.
What-
Maybe someone will tell me some information why I should be against it, but tell me. Until then, it sounds like I'm for this.
It establishes 4 penalties. Entities, I don't know if you went over that, loses license. They'll lose the California tax exempt status. They cannot receive state and local government contracts or grants. The leaders cannot serve leadership roles in California health plan, pharmacy, or clinic. So that's if it passes, right? So anyway, kind of a wordy one with a lot of variance factors. And then it's weird because it seems like it's definitely aimed towards one organization and its leadership. So that's kind of interesting.
It's interesting too, like the argument against Prop 34, they're saying that the Prop 34 only has one purpose: to prevent AIDS Healthcare Foundation from promoting rent control.
Yeah, that's interesting. But it's the organization that's going for it, right? Because it's this CAA, not the talent agency, but the housing advocacy that's trying to kind of take down.
There's so much more to bite off of this that I don't think we know enough to like dig into the weeds here. There seems to be a lot of information between 33 and 34.
I just want to say there are some beef that we do not understand fully, and we're trying to vote on it.
Wow, intriguing. Based on the context, maybe I would change my vote. I don't know. I'm just a little floored right now about this little side beef, this little beef I was unaware of with the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. And
just to let you know, sir, you have 3 weeks to ponder about Prop 34.
Yeah.
Moving on to Proposition 35. Proposition 35, California general election on November 5th, 2024. Prop 35 provides permanent funding for Medi-Cal healthcare services initiative statute put on the ballot by petition signatures. Makes a permanent existing tax on managed healthcare insurance plans, which, if approved by the federal government, provides revenue to pay for Medi-Cal healthcare services. Fiscal impact, short-term state costs between roughly $1 billion to $2 billion annually to increase funding for certain health programs. Total funding increase between roughly $2 billion to $5 billion annually. Unknown long-term fiscal effects. Supporters for Prop 35 include Planned Parenthood affiliates of California, American College of Obstetrician and Gynecologists, American Academy of Pediatrician of California, and opponents are none submitted.
You did great.
Thanks.
What your vote means. A yes on Prop 35 means an existing state tax on health plans that provides funding for certain health programs would become permanent. New rules would direct how the state must use the revenue. A no on Prop 35, an existing state tax on health plans would end in 2027 unless the legislature continues it. The new rules would not become law.
Pros for Prop 35. A yes on 35 addresses our urgent healthcare crisis by securing dedicated funding without raising taxes to protect access to primary and specialty care, community clinics, hospitals, ERs, family planning, and mental health providers. Prop 35 prevents the state from redirecting funds for non-healthcare purposes. Supported by the Planned Parenthood, Pediatrician, California Medical Association. VoteYes35.com.
Cons? No argument against Proposition 35 was submitted.
I mean, I know it's getting late and we're getting kind of lazy, but there's no arguments against 35, so I don't know. Do I still just be a petty little bitch and vote no?
You could, dude. You could if you want to. That's your prerogative, man.
Yeah. I got nothing to say. You got anything?
No, not really. I'm all about expanding healthcare. I am a advocate for single payer healthcare or, any type of just social healthcare system, really.
Can I
We
fix
are
your
lacking.
sentence? Can I finish your sentence for you right there? Just fix
Yeah,
one thing.
go for it.
I'm I would like you to say I'm all about affordable single payer healthcare. As
Yes, you're right.
there's an alternate out there. They're like, all right, let's just do single payer. Let's do it. And then you get your bill. You're like, I feel like there's an extra zero in here. They're like, no, sir, that's correct. I just had one
You
extra.
know,
I'm not sure why I'm paying this much. They're like, Senator Dorman passed this law a couple years ago. Like a fuckaroo. Moving on to
you're
Prop
right.
36.
Affordable single payer healthcare. California general election, official voter information guide. Proposition 36 allows felony charges and increases sentences for certain drug and theft crimes. On the ballot by petition signatures. This is an initiative statute. Summary allows felony charges for possessing certain drugs and for thefts under $950 if defendant has 2 prior drug or theft convictions. That sounded weird reading that. I'm going to do that again. Summary allows felony charges for possessing certain drugs and for thefts under $950 if defendant has 2 prior drug or theft convictions. Fiscal impact state criminal justice costs likely ranging from several tens of millions of dollars to the low hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Local criminal justice costs likely in the tens of millions of dollars annually. Supporters, Crime Victims United of California, California District Attorneys Association, Family Business Association of California. Opponents, Diana Becton, District Attorney Contra Costa County. Crime survivors for safety and justice. My goodness, that was difficult for me to get through.
Are you okay? Do you need water? You need a break?
No, let's get through this.
All right. A yes on Prop 36 means people convicted of certain drug or theft crimes could receive increased punishment, such as longer prison sentences. In certain cases, people who possess illegal drugs would be required to complete treatment or serve up to 3 years in prison. No on Prop 36 means punishment for drug and theft crimes will remain the same, and we will roughly go over that later.
Arguments. Pro Prop 36 says it makes California communities safer by addressing rampant theft and drug trafficking. It toughens penalties for fentanyl and drug traffickers and smash and grabs while holding repeat offenders accountable. It targets serial thieves and encourages treatment for those addicted to drugs using a balanced approach to fix loopholes in current laws.
Cons of Prop 36, it says, don't be fooled. Prop 36 will lead to more crimes, not less. It reignites the failed war on drugs, making simple drug possession a felony and wastes billions of prisons while slashing crucial funding for victims, crime prevention, treatment, and rehab. This puts prisons first and guts treatment. Vote no. So, of course, on Prop 36, we had to end, we should have ended on Prop 35. So, I think this is kind of a tricky one. Before we continue, do you know where the county that is stated from the district attorney of Contra Costa County? Do you know where Contra Costa County is?
No. Northern California, coastal county, maybe?
Oh, where in Northern California? You are correct, Northern California, but where?
I don't know. North of San Francisco? Does that help?
Very close. It's on the East Bay. So it's where Walnut Creek, Orinda, so close to Oakland.
Okay.
Maps.
Yeah. Geography is good.
Yeah.
This does sound reminiscent to the war on drugs type of shit going on. I'm not about that.
Do you think it's just the wording, or do you think it's the execution of because there's a weird stature of it? It's kind of like, well, hey, this is your third strike rule kind of, right? It's like you have you have 2 felonies, but there's a limit. So if it's under 950, what if I store it in 951? Is it a different crime? I think it is.
So
right? Yeah.
And that's so kind of like an arbitrary number, 950.
Yeah.
Does
so
that rise with inflation?
do I need to
change?
go to Ralph's? Do I need to go to Kroger's and think about what I'm gonna steal? Hey, honey, we're only at 910. Go steal another milk or something.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone's doing that. If they're stealing milk, they're not thinking about this at all. And that's a whole other issue. If people are, I don't know what they're stealing, but if they are stealing milk, that's an issue about material needs. And this ain't gonna solve it.
When you read their arguments in favor and arguments against for both, it's and the rebuttals of, And then it does sound expensive. There's a lot of trickle down after this, right? It's not about just there's like prison effects, there's reintegrating to society effect, treatment effects. It's like I don't know, but I think this is a poor way to kind of like fix the smash and grabs theft.
Agreed. Which, by the way, retail theft is apparently not some extreme issue. I mean, you had that has to do with retail stores.
Okay.
It just essentially meaning that just that like, yeah, retail theft is not a fucking issue. Like year to year, it's the same as it was like 2 or 3 years ago. Like there
I
was
think the
no
bad
big
thing is
increase.
because there's a perspective of nothing happening, right? So people are smashing and grabbing, they're not really getting caught. People aren't really going after them. It's usually the same people
Yeah,
doing
you're
it
right.
over and over again. Police already have a hard job, but so obviously they have vice, they have crime, but they consider this petty crime, and it's just a very distaste in everyone's mouth, like as a consumer, as a shop runner, as an employee. You can't do anything about it, right? And then you hear stories about one of the young workers got brave, tackled the assailant, he got fired, things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't help the narrative, like, okay, like he's trying to do the right thing and he's being punished for it, right? I don't know. In a Tay world, right? In Taytopia, if someone's smashing and grabbing, everybody has the rights to mace him or shoot him with rubber bullets and BB guns. Everybody can't sue. You are running because there's not really reasons to run at a grocery store. What's your reason? Oh, my baby's dying. That's a good reason to run
That's a
out.
good reason.
But
Yeah,
don't
you
don't
should run.
shop. Don't shop. That's it. Your baby's
No,
dying. Don't shop. Not a lot of
priorities are out
reasons
of
to run
whack.
around in a grocery store. I used to think about it. Earthquake, or like
No, you don't want to run during an earthquake either. That's how you can
oh, no,
hurt
like no
yourself.
earthquake somewhere else, not at the store. That sounds deadly. I don't want an
That it
earthquake
would
at
be
a
deadly. All those
yeah.
shelves and whatnot.
Or like you're in the sodas or the can sections and they're falling on you and get killed by Chunky Campbell Soup. Chunky Campbell Soup, not an official sponsor of this podcast, even though Tay loves his Chunky's Campbell Soup. Back to Prop 36. I think it's just I sometimes feel this because you played CV Falcon football. The people making
Mm-hmm.
the rules of an organization or the government have never shopped at these places or worked at these places, so they don't really know what the fuck's going on. They're kind of hearing stories. They're like, you got to do something about it, and it's like, what are you gonna do when that congressman has never been to a CVS? Yeah, it's a minor problem, but they're like, we're gonna make tougher laws because I need my prosecution rates to go up, or I'm the congressman who signed it, right? Or like crime has gone down 20% when I was in office, right? Like, just make me feel safer. That's it. Don't make me wait at a CVS to buy a razor because it's a highly stolen item and they got to unlock it.
Here we go. Here's combining shoplifting with commercial burglaries. The Institute's researchers found that total reported thefts were 18% higher than 2019. All right. I'm very curious. Now, I said a statement of a fact about the Retail Association saying that shoplifting was not the reason why they were closing a bunch of retail stores and that shoplifting was overblown anyways. That kind of goes against it. Or it's a statistic that's just disingenuously being used, or it's a lie. Or I'm wrong. I don't think I'm fucking wrong, but I'm curious where this stat came from.
All right. We'll wrap it up with this. Just a quick thing. Obviously, we have candidates running. Depending on where you are, you're going to vote for your local politicians as well. Like for me, I get to vote for a congressman, but everybody in California gets to vote for a president, and everybody in California gets to vote for a U.S. senator. But it's kind of confusing because there's 2 U.S. Senate election. One is partial unexpired term, which is the one that's ongoing. And there's a one that's a full term, but it's the same people, which is the most confusing ass. I get it. I know why they do it. Because one of our senators passed away. And when somebody passes away, the governor assigns somebody to be a senator. I believe both of our senators were assigned by your future president, Gavin Newsom. One was LaFonza Butler. She was assigned when Dianne Feinstein passed away. And then Alex Padilla was assigned when Kamala Harris became vice president. So now Steve Garvey, yes, the same Steve Garvey who used to be the first baseman for the Dodgers in the 80s, who was what I was told. And I met him before at a baseball clinic. Nice guy, good handshake. I do judge people by
Probably.
their handshake. And he's voting as your Republican. He is on the Republican ticket after our primary. Adam Schiff, who was the congressman for the Glendale Burbank area for a long time, for my entire life, and then his office have actually helped me out personally. I am kind of twisted because if he wins, that means I don't get his office's help. But and it's gonna be a harder access to try to get a hold of him. Stuff like that. I'm a little petty. So, for example, my current congressman, their office was supposed to give me a tour of Washington D.C. and they fucking didn't, which means I'm
Never
probably not
again.
voting for you,
They're out.
fucker. You're not a fucker, but and I'm not gonna name who it is. So there's some candidates there. The tough ones are when there's judges because I have no idea who they are.
Oh man.
Have you real quickly? Have you got to look at your voter registration card? Like you know who you're gonna.
No, I don't know who's running for my local.
Oh, you're just flipping coins, huh?
candidates.
Just flipping coins. Whoever has a cooler name, huh?
No, I'll have to read beforehand and do a little bit of research. At least be somewhat knowledgeable of what they've done and how their positions are, if I can.
This person's racist. I can't wait to vote for them. That's what you get when you read the Daily Wire, right?
There, that's all I look for.
All right. You got anything else?
Stay informed, stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed this. Like and subscribe. And until next time, waste your time wisely.
All right. Thanks, everybody.